Since there was barely any news this week, Kinds of Kindness review.
Maxine Minx is finally becoming a movie star.
Yes, and turns out there is one last stop in Yuma County.
And Gruel's back, baby. That was terrible. Bananas.
Bananas. And, of course, the box office, all in this week's episode of the Movie Nights Roundtable.
Wow, that was a terrible intro.
Horrible.
That was awful.
Yeah.
We might want to consider cutting that.
So, as we joked earlier, it was kind of a slow news week this week. There were a couple stories we could have done, but ultimately, we were able to watch a lot of movies. And so what we kind of wanted to do is go through and do some movie reviews for you guys on the show in the first half, and then jump into the box office. Let's start with Kinds of Kindness.
Yes. Disclaimer, I have not seen it. This is Dalton here.
It will mostly be him reacting to things I say and engaging in conversation that way. But
Dead silence. Cut over here for dead air.
I will. Watch me. But
news. I don't know why I have that open. All right.
Oh my God, that was so funny. But watch when I go, hey, what were our predictions last week? You're going to go, fuck, and open them up. But anyway, Kinds of Kindness. This is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who most recently directed Poor Things, but he's also director of films such as The Favorite, The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer. Excellent filmmaker. An amazing, amazing filmmaker.
Oscar-nominated
filmmaker, yes. Amazing. The Favorite is one of my favorite movies, probably in my top 10 movies of like the past 30 years.
I still haven't seen it.
Dude, it's so good. I love The Favorite.
That was the beginning of him and Emma Stone just making every movie together.
Correct.
Don't they have another one coming out, like...
I don't know, maybe.
Later? Oh.
But, Kinds of Kindness. Mm-hmm. And all the praise I just gave that person, Mr. Yorgos Lanthimos, I did not like this movie. Mm-hmm. And you know me, I don't like to just shit on things. If I'm going to say why I don't like something, I want to give a critical analysis and explain why it didn't work for me. This movie is about 2 hours and 45 minutes, which in itself is not a problem. But it is a dragging 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's very, very slow. And how the film is broken up, if you don't know, is that it's 3 almost like hour-long short stories back to back to back, even with like mini credits in between. And each story, while there's brilliance in them, just completely fell flat for me. Like, the first one really fumbled how it ended. The second one did the same thing. I didn't like how the second story ended either. But I also think that in the third story, I actually really like how it ended, but I didn't like the middle of it, which the other stories, I kind of enjoyed parts of it. But another thing that didn't work for me is the film script is very reminiscent of The Lobster, and that the dialogue is very deadpan, straightforward, no margin for interpretation, just I'm saying what I think, the characters. And for when it's comedic, it works very well, which is why there are parts of The Lobster that are very, very funny. And if you like The Lobster, like if you love that movie, which I know a lot of people who do, then maybe the script works for you a lot more. That was a negative factor for me. Mm-hmm. Obviously, on a technical level, the film looks gorgeous. It sounds gorgeous. The performances are great. Like, that's not you're not going to have that problem with Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah.
But I think that while the film overall was an interesting concept of having these stories play out, and there is like a mid-credit scene joke that kind of ties the stories together, which I thought was funny, it just was left me as like an unsatisfied storytelling experience. And it was disappointing. It was really disappointing. And just, it wasn't good. I didn't like it. I wish I did, because there are moments of brilliance. Like, you're watching each story play out, and you're like, that's really interesting. Like, this idea is really interesting. Let's see where they go with it. And it was disappointing. Okay. So it just kind of kept repeating that over and over and over again. And it was unfortunate, because I was really excited for the film, especially after Poor Things, which was an amazing movie. I am left disappointed by it. I did not like the film very much at all. Were you interested in seeing it?
I was, but after talking with you, I mean, I still definitely want to watch it, but I'm not going to be rushing to the theaters to get it. How was Jesse Plemons specifically? I'm always interested. Yeah,
Jesse Plemons is great.
From the filmmaking perspective, I assume it was great.
Oh, like on a technical level, it's
a lot more grounded though compared to like Poor Things, that worldliness that sort of it had.
I wouldn't use the word grounded.
Okay.
I would use the word, because they're both equally, and this is just a Yorgos Lanthimos thing, they're both equally out there. I think is the best way to describe it in their concepts. It's very Strange-esque concept. Now, do these take place in a world that mirrors ours? Yes.
Okay.
I'll say that. But so in that respect, yes, it's more grounded. But when you said the word grounded in my head, I was just like, no.
So do you think the issues sort of stem from, like, do you think this is a case where coming off the success of, like, Poor Things, that he was just sort of given too much freedom?
See, I don't think so, because I think this movie was done when Poor Things was coming out. Because I know they shot this one really close, like after. I think they were shooting it while Poor Things was like on the festival circuit.
Gotcha.
Like it was very. It just came out now, but to my understanding, they shot it like a while ago. So I don't think that was a factor. I just think listen, I think that he is a very risk-taking storyteller, and sometimes the risks just don't work. And now listen, I'm saying that the movie has a very high critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes, like a 73% or something. So don't. I'm not the be-all, end-all, right? You might love this movie, and I hope you do. I don't want anyone to not like anything. But just from a personal experience, I was let down by the film.
Audience score of 50 with a tomato meter of 73, not certified fresh.
Yeah, but hey.
Yeah.
That's a pretty even split.
That is, yeah.
You might love it, and I hope you do. So something I'm discovering as we're doing this is my two favorite films that he's done, which are The Favorite and Poor Things, he did not write. So maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just not a fan of his writing style.
Right, Lobster?
He did write Lobster, and he was one of the writers on Kinds of Kindness. He did write Killing of a Sacred Deer, though, which is a good movie.
I didn't see that one. That was Nicole Kidman and Barry Keoghan, right?
Yep.
Is Colin Farrell in that too?
Yes. Yes, I've only seen it once. It's been a long time.
Do you think this sort of continue? Like, he definitely, I feel like, has one of the most distinct voices right now.
Oh, no, he's a very distinct style, distinct voice, absolutely. But just unfortunately, this one didn't work out for me.
Gotcha. It happens.
Yeah, it happens. Now, let's move on to the next movie we're going to talk about, which is The Glorious MaXXXine.
Yes.
I've also seen the film, but I will let you kind of shepherd this conversation as we go.
Yeah. So I left the theater a little disappointed, but still relatively optimistic on MaXXXine, right? This is the third movie in Ty West's, let's call it the X trilogy, starting with X, followed by Pearl, which was a prequel, followed by MaXXXine now, which is a direct sequel to X. Much more of a direct sequel than I was anticipating it to be. I thought it was sort of going to be a little more loose. I was not a fan of this movie. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I left the theater a little excited, a little hyped there, and I think I was at 3.5, and sitting on it a bit, I dropped it down to 2.5. Is sort of where I ended up on it. I think it definitely has a unique style. I think that, as with X and Pearl as well, I think it was trying to be this fun sort of campy slasher type movie, and I think that certain elements ultimately ended up falling flat from a story perspective for me. I think that Mia Goth gives a great performance as MaXXXine, as she did in X, but I still think that her stronger character is Pearl, and I'd be more interested sort of in exploring the Pearl side of things a lot more.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think I'm slightly more positive than you are, but I will say disappointing doesn't always mean bad. Which is something I say often, but because I don't think that this is a bad film, but it is a disappointing film, especially when it comes to how much I enjoy the first two. Yeah. And part of that to me is I think this is the only film in the franchise where you have to have seen X to even remotely appreciate this film. Like, you can watch X fully on its own, and it works completely as its own story. You can watch Pearl completely on its own, and have never seen X, and it completely works as its own story. If you watch this and you haven't seen X, the third act of this movie will have you be like, what the fuck is this? Like, you would be very baffled by the third act of this movie if you have not seen X.
Well, I think so. I think also expectation and excitement is a thing, because, when you watch X, like, I'm just like, oh, I'm going to go watch this horror movie X. It looks fun. Right, and I really enjoyed it. And then we stay for the post-credit scene, and it's a trailer saying that there's going to be a prequel about Pearl, this Technicolor nightmare, and I'm like, oh, fuck it, and it's coming out in a few months, and I'm like, oh, shit, hell yeah. And then right after Pearl comes out, it's, oh, we're getting MaXXXine, a sequel to X, Maxine Minx is going to be a star.
Mm-hmm.
It has not started filming yet. There was this large gap, and there was this excitement window of me building up like, oh shit, like hell yeah, we're getting this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ultimately that expectation, just excitement, may have hindered that a bit for me. But I feel like it's valid in this case.
That's understandable. And to me, the film does a lot that I like, in that Maxine's arc throughout her X and this film is kind of going from somebody who believes and they deserve, that famous quote, I will not accept a life I do not deserve, to, by the end of this film, and I won't spoil how or why, but she finally does something that's selfless for the help of another person, which is not even something she really did in X. She was also really looking out for herself there.
Yeah.
Even in that high stakes situation, like, yeah, she tried to help other people, but it was mostly about, I'm not going to let this thing in my life affect my chances of going and being a star in Hollywood. Like, it's not going to happen. And I think that arc was played out very interestingly in Maxine. I also think just Mia Goth as this character, she's so good as this role. I do agree that I like the Pearl character more, but I think she was great. I loved the different characters that we got introduced to in this film and how they were interacted back and forth with Maxine. I loved the two cops a lot. I thought they were excellent.
See, I think the cops, it's Michelle Monaghan and Bobby Cannavale, who I love both of them. Mm-hmm. It just felt like that part felt weird to me, like their dialogue, whereas like things with X felt a little more realistic, I guess. These characters, like, I didn't buy it. Like, this movie felt more like a dream idea than reality to me.
Okay.
I think is sort of where it happened, where I'm like, really, no one has, like, when you get to the reveals and stuff, you're like, no one has gotten this yet, no one's figured this out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the cops and you're like, okay, but these are, it's isn't like cops in movies are always bad. Not like evil bad. They're just like, you're watching and you're like, come on. Like,
Be better at your job.
Be better at your job.
Yeah.
What is it in oh my god, what is why can't I think of the name? Barbarian. When the cop's just like, can't help you, and then it drives away and you're like, what? And it's one of those things that takes you out of the movie.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had that issue with the cops. That, and also Kevin Bacon just giving...
No, I will defend Kevin Bacon's performance. I loved every second of it.
Yes, but Daniel Craig's already done it better. He just has this southern drawl, and it's just way too over the top for the movie that they're in.
I don't know. I thought it was Weasley. I thought it was wonderful. I thought what happens to the Kevin Bacon character is amazing. I won't spoil what it is. But I think that honestly, one of the big things that didn't work for me in the film, and I'm not going to spoil it, but a character is in this film that is in a previous film in this franchise. And the way that their performance was in the previous installment worked for what we were seeing, and they didn't make any adjustments to that performance in a completely different setting, and it didn't work as well in this film as it did that previous film.
I think ultimately, again, right, based on the trailers, right, there's this sort of killer on the loose element of it. Mm-hmm. And while I think the reveal itself is interesting in the aspect of I wasn't thinking about it, and when it was revealed to me, I go, oh, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But then you kind of go into this, in movies when villains give, like, their monologue to sort of catch you up to speed of, like, what they've been doing behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And then as this character is doing that, I'm like, this is a far more interesting movie. Like, why wasn't this the movie? Like, they could have just cut out all these, like, red herring type stuff, and just given me this, and I would have been fully on board.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Would you have enjoyed the film more if, instead of a reveal, we knew who it was from the beginning and was kind of following both simultaneously?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Because, like, that's always a tough choice, like, from a screenwriting perspective of, like...
Well, you're eliminating the other thing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I guess they were going more for a mystery element, but I think that story is equally as interesting.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's completely fair. I think I'm a little bit more positive than you. I probably go 3. Mm-hmm. But it is the weakest of the 3 movies, for sure.
It is, yeah.
100%. But yes, now that Maxine is down, we're going to move on to another film that I actually just saw recently. And I was very pleasantly surprised by it, and I wanted to talk about it. And that is The Last Stop in Yuma County. This film was directed by Francis Galuppi, if we're pronouncing that correctly. They've just been selected to direct a new Evil Dead film. And so I was curious, and I heard about this film on the festival circuit, and I was like, I'm going to check this out. I want to watch this. It's very good. And it's a very low-budget independent film. And I was really enthralled by the story. It kind of is a sequence of events playing out in real time, essentially. Yes and no. And basically the crux and the plot of the movie is there's this gas station that's out of gas, but it's connected to a diner. So when people come up and try to get gas, they sit in the diner as they wait for the gas truck to get there, which is supposed to be coming any minute. But two people who have just robbed a bank also end up there. And so they're sitting in the diner and trying to hope that no one finds out that they're there as more people come in, as people start to interact with everybody and find out more about people and wait.
Yeah.
It's kind of just this ticking time bomb of, will that gas truck come? Will they get out of here? Will someone say something? What's going to happen? And I think the tension building was done exceptionally well. And a lot of the performances are really, really great. Some of them are better than others. Like, there are some actors who are just operating on another level than other actors. But overall, like, you buy everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I highly recommend the movie. I don't know if it's for a PVOD yet, but it is a great independent film. There's one practical explosion that's so fucking awesome, and I feel like a lot of the budget went into that, and honestly, good. Good decision. It was very well done.
Is it a type of movie where you're rooting for the people who robbed the bank
to
get out? Like, sort of or are you just sort of watching you're just thrown into this event and like, here's what's happening, follow along?
What I liked about it is who you're rooting for kind of keeps shifting.
Okay.
Like, as you find out more about a person that you were rooting for, you're like, oh, I actually don't want them to get out of it. Like, I don't want them to end up okay. And then you learn about these people and you're like, oh, I want them to get out okay. And there are some people that you always hate and always love, and you hope good or bad things don't happen to them. But there is like a shifting perspective on who you think deserves to get out safely.
Okay.
And how it plays out that way, which I thought was very interesting and well done.
So as you said before too, right? The director was chosen to make a new Evil Dead movie. Mm-hmm. Do you see elements in it as to like why he was chosen, or do you think it was sort of he was at an event, someone saw it and was like, "Hey, that was really good," and he goes, "Oh, if you think that's good, Evil Dead producer, hear my Evil Dead movie."
Well, I mean, you always got to be like that when you go to these events. But what I saw in it was one, tension building, like masterful tension building and suspense.
Is this his first feature?
That's a great question. I would have to double check. I'll do that while I'm speaking.
Yeah.
But what I saw that would make like a really great Evil Dead movie personally was a sense of character. And like when I mentioned the shifting perspectives earlier, and like, who do I trust? Who do I like? Like, I feel like that is an element to an Evil Dead film that's not seen a whole lot. And bringing that, like, if you really had this protagonist and then suddenly halfway through the movie, you were like, I'm not sure if I like this protagonist. Like, picture like the Justin Long character in Barbarian, where he's a bad person. But as the movie plays out, you're like, oh, maybe he's just a victim of circumstance. And then you're reminded at the end of the movie, like, oh, nope, he's a piece of shit. Like, but kind of like how
things fluctuate.
Yes. Yeah. And I thought the handling of that was incredibly well done. And bringing that to an Evil Dead film, I think, would be very, very interesting, for sure.
So character and tension, which
yes,
I feel like is what a horror movie needs.
Yes, and it looks like this is his first feature. He had some shorts and music videos before this.
All right. Very cool.
Yeah, but yeah, overall, I really like The Last Stop in Yuma County. Highly recommend it. A very fun, independent movie that has amazing suspense and like a very niche little visual world. And yes, please seek it out. Again, I have no idea if it's available anywhere, but seek it out, watch it. I'm sure it'll be streaming for free sometime in the next few months. I really enjoyed this movie.
I will definitely be checking it out.
Yes, 100%. Now we'll move on to our last movie review before going on to the box office. And that is for a movie that I feel like we do feel differently about, but I'm going to let Nick run the conversation here on
Despicable Me 4.
Bananas. Go on, buddy.
I liked this movie. Listen, I feel like Despicable Me and the Minions franchise is always consistently at the same quality level. I've never been disappointed by it, and the movies work for me. You know, I think it's a good time, and it's guaranteed money at the box office. I'm just curious how quickly Will it reach 1 billion quicker than Inside Out 2 is really the question that we're asking here.
That's true.
Yeah, I think they did an interesting job at. I'm gonna fucking Despicable Me 4 review. I think they did an interesting job of taking the characters out of sort of their element and putting them into just new situations to see how they would adapt and react to that, right? So obviously, sort of the crux of the movie is that there's this villain voiced by Will Ferrell, who, let me tell you, they let do just the worst, most ridiculous French accent. And I want to know the creative choice as to why, but I'm fine with it. But then there's another element to this character that is not anywhere in the marketing that is so baffling that you're just like, what is happening right now? But I love every aspect of it. And I don't want to spoil it because it happens and you're like, wait, what? Anyway. This character is sort of after Gru and his family. So Gru and his family essentially get put into witness protection. And you sort of have this, generic comedy of, these are spies who are put into witness protection who have to act like they're in suburban. Gru's wife becomes a hairdresser, antics ensue. And overall, it's just a fun, lighthearted, good time. You want to go in every time rooting against the minions, right? You're like, they're too big. They're everywhere. Moms on Facebook are posting those awful photos with the captions, and you just want to hate how the minions are everywhere. Man, if I wasn't laughing every fucking time they were on screen, though, like they keep them so good in the movies.
The minions are funny. They've always been funny.
And they have, but you want to root against them, and you can't. And there's there's a whole sequence with the trailers, right, where you see now they have these mega minions, super minions. There's a whole sequence of them out on the town saving the day. It's probably the funniest sequence in the movie. Is it a great movie? No. Is it fun? Yes. Is it the worst in the franchise? Probably not. That's where I'm at.
Interesting.
It does end with a sequence that rivals Endgame. I'll say that much.
You can keep that to yourself.
What are your thoughts on Despicable Me 4, Dalton?
I liked 2 sequences in this movie. Now, granted, I liked them a lot, and it was
the karate sequence.
The karate sequence. There's a karate sequence that's really funny, and there's the Minions superhero sequence that you're referring to, and just the use of the Minions.
I think that the movie just suffered from cohesion. I feel like
lack thereof.
Yes. Well, I feel like the other Despicable Me movies had a much more linear structure in their storytelling. Mm-hmm. And more of an overarching story. This one felt like there were 3 different bit ideas that they had, and they were just playing them out.
Yeah. The story of the Despicable Me ride at Universal is a better story than this movie. Like if I were to rank,
what's the ride again?
It's the anniversary of them getting adopted, and they're trying to give him a gift, and he's trying to turn all the riders into minions. And so they keep thinking that he forgot, and then at the very end, he surprises them with the gift, and he's like, "Of course I didn't forget, the best day of my life." And
girls,
yeah. But this movie, I'm not gonna sit here and be harsh. It's not good. I do feel like there are good things in it, like we mentioned those 2 sequences, and Steve Carell as Gru is very funny. I thought the story was a bit dumb in regard to them going into witness protection. And there's a whole sequence where he has to help out somebody, which I thought was really dumb. I won't lie. That whole side mission with Gru, which it's a side mission that's also the A story, so it doesn't really make sense in that way. But they try to do some emotional things with the girls in the movie, but it just seems very tacked on, very like an afterthought. And something that I actually liked about the other Despicable Me sequels, because, the first one's the best movie. But the other sequels at least attempted to give more story to the girls.
Yeah.
Kind of like that first Despicable Me movie. And it just seemed like this movie felt very Kung Fu Panda 4 to me. And that it's they know they're going to make money, but I don't see why this story had to be told in this world.
It felt like they had ideas for a few different movies and just
put them all together
to throw it out.
That's exactly what it feels like.
I felt like, and even with the villain, Will Ferrell's villain itself, felt like it was 2 different villains that they had, and they were like, "What if we just made it one?" And you're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it felt like the villain should have just been Will Ferrell's character from Zoolander.
Mm-hmm.
Just this high-level fashionista, just whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's the other villain part, which I won't spoil because it's just bafflingly funny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. But yeah, it was a movie. It was something. And look, if you love it, I'm so happy you do. I'm not taking that away from anybody. And it's going to make all the money. So good for them.
What do you think's next? Minions 3 or Despicable Me 5?
Minions 3.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like the I was not a fan of the first Minions.
I never saw it. I just saw the second one.
I enjoyed the second one. Again, the Minions are funny.
Yeah. I give the Minions movies a little bit more leeway too, just because
it's silent slapstick.
Yes.
A lot of
it's slapstick and it's fun. But, and the slapstick moments in the Despicable Me movies are funny.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we'll take that. But, I think there's some better storytelling. I know that I'm complaining about the storytelling in Despicable Me. That's not lost on me. But, I do think.
I mean, I don't think.
Because, I think the first movie's really good.
I think it's a valid criticism. It's because it's just writing off animation, saying animation doesn't need to have a good story.
And I think it does.
It does.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm just saying I could still enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah. 100%. That's totally fair. But, guys, what did you think of Last Up in Yuma County, Despicable Me 4, MaXXXine, and Kinds of Kindness? So let us know in the comments as we move on to the box office.
The box office. I'm going to open my laptop now.
Yes, and do our predictions from last week.
All right, so, Dalton, you had Despicable Me 4 coming in at number 1, ironically. Inside Out 2 as number 2. That's funny. Quiet Place Day 1, number 3. MaXXXine, number 4. And Horizon and America Saga Part 1, Chapter 1, as number 5. A lot of numbers in this week's lineup, if you even count MaXXXine with the 3 X's.
Yeah.
I have Despicable Me 4, Inside Out 2, Quiet Place Day 1, MaXXXine, and then Bad Boys, Ride or Die.
So our last spots were swapped.
Yes.
You were right, sir.
That never happens.
I know. You did great.
Delight.
You did great. Now, in the final numbers, Bad Boys might sneak over MaXXXine to where we would both be wrong. Mm-hmm. But I think it does
will happen.
But I think it does have a comfortable... It has a $1 million lead over Horizon, so you should be safe there. But let's dive into the numbers more specifically. Coming in number 1 was Despicable Me 4, making $75 million over the weekend. And you might think, oh, that's kind of lower than I thought it would, even though that's a lot of money. It opened on a Wednesday, so it still made money Wednesday and Thursday. That's not included in this total.
That's crazy.
Inside Out 2 made $30 million in its fourth weekend, dropping 48%.
Crazy.
Quiet Place Day 1 made $21 million more, dropping 60% from week 1 to week 2. MaXXXine opened to $6.7 million, which, for what I assume the budget of that movie is not bad.
I think I read somewhere that's the highest opening for the trilogy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, it was marketed very well.
It was.
And Bad Boys Ride or Die made another $6.5 million, coming in 5th. Horizon came in 6th with $5.4 million, dropping an exact 50 from 1 to 2. Despicable Me 4. Let's dive into the numbers, shall we? So, worldwide, Despicable Me has already made $229 million.
Oh my God.
Because I believe Inside Out 2 opened to, I want to say it was 110, 120 opening weekend. Here, I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
Oh, I stand corrected. It opened to 154, and Despicable Me opened 75, but Inside Out 2 didn't open on a Wednesday. So it probably just came slightly under, probably around like 122.
Okay.
125-ish for Despicable Me. But worldwide, it's already almost at 230, which is insanity.
That's wild.
Yeah, I don't think it'll hit... The next week drop will determine if it hits $1 billion faster than Inside Out. Because Inside Out 2's second weekend was still over $100 million, which was stupid.
Based on these projections, though, Despicable Me 4 is probably crossing $1 billion.
Most likely, yeah. Unless it takes a steep drop.
Everyone saw and we're like, we're done.
Yeah, then...
But I feel like they have a solid next week because you have Long Legs. That's just a different audience.
But there's another movie coming out next week, too. Something opens with Long Legs. What is it? Fly Me to the Moon comes out, too.
That's a theatrical movie?
Yes.
That's a movie?
Yeah. And look, it's not going to do incredible, but there's an audience for that.
But that audience, I don't think is Despicable Me 4, so I feel like they're in the clear there.
Most likely, yes. So yeah, that is interesting. Same with Inside Out 2. The kids' movie summer is going to keep going swimmingly. Quiet Place Day 1. Well, Inside Out 2 as we know, has crossed $1 billion. It's at 1.2 already. Jesus. Made for a budget of $200 million. Risky. 6.1 times that budget back already.
It's fourth week.
And it's still going. Yeah, it ain't stopping.
No. Oh, it's going to take forever to get kicked out of the top 5.
Oh, 100%.
Insane.
A Quiet Place Day One has now made $178 million worldwide on a budget of what I believe was 60. So we're about 2.1, 2.2. So it'll end up making money for the studio. Mm-hmm. No surprise. Great franchise. MaXXXine, I'm not sure if it opened worldwide. Oh, it did a little bit. It's at $7.8 million worldwide. I assume the budget is around, this is a guess, I assume it's around $4 million.
For MaXXXine?
Yeah. Just because if Pearl and X were both made for $1 million each, I don't see 10 max, I think.
I feel like it might be 10 just based off of the cast.
Maybe. But this is also, A24 is also one of those studios where they negotiate very good.
Yeah, and especially coming off the success, I could see it being people wanting to work with Ty West.
Yeah.
But like a name like Giancarlo Esposito
and Kevin Bacon, that's not cheap.
That's not cheap.
But they also, their roles in the movie were also not significant. Like, well, significant, but not like, big roles.
Giancarlo had a day.
Yeah, maybe 2. Yeah,
maybe 2.
Yeah,
yeah. Kevin Bacon a little more substantial.
Yeah. No, 100%. Moving on to Bad Boys Ride or Die. Yeah. They worldwide have $360 million. That's 3.6 times that budget. Another moneymaker for Bad Boys.
Yep.
They keep proving that they can do it. Horizon, on the other hand, has $22 million worldwide. That movie was made for 50 or 100. I think both were made for 100, if I'm not mistaken. If it's made for 50, that's bad. If it's made for 100, that's worse. But, we'll see how it goes, because I think the Fly Me to the Moon audience is that audience. So we'll see if they stick around for Horizon or if they go to the Fly Me to the Moon. We'll have to see there. Let's see here. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes ended up at 391. I think that's going to be the final of its run, and that's at 2.4. So it's just...
not going to get it.
Just there.
Dang.
But, I think for the first one in a while, I don't think they're horrifically upset about that.
Nothing to be sad about.
No. Bike Riders is at $29 million worldwide. I don't know the budget of that film, but I imagine it was around 40, maybe 20 to 40.
I've been hearing mixed things on that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to catch it today. So next week's movies are going to be interesting.
Hit me with it.
Because we have Fly Me to the Moon and Long Legs coming out.
Yeah.
Both of which I think have different potentials of success. But it's not just the amounts they're going to make. It's what's going to fall out of this top 5. That is what is intriguing me. So I will go first for predictions if that's okay.
Hit me with it.
I'm going wild here, buddy.
Okay.
Number 1, Despicable Me 4.
Okay.
Number 2, Inside Out 2.
Okay.
I'm going to go number 3, Long Legs.
Okay.
Number 4, A Quiet Place Day 1.
Okay.
Number 5, MaXXXine.
Oh.
I think Fly Me to the Moon is going to come in that Horizon spot at about 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I think MaXXXine is going to have a decent hold. I think it might even make 5 next weekend or 4.
Interesting. Can you tell me one more time, what did Quiet Place make this week?
21 million.
21, so 50% drop.
11. That's where I was struggling too. It's like, will Long Legs break 11? And I think the marketing's been super good. I think it might.
And the reviews.
Yeah.
And Nicolas fucking Cage, who also has not been in the marketing, which is the most intriguing part of it.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm going to go. Fuck it. All right, so I'm going to keep ours kind of similar, but again with last week, I'm going to flip up our number 5. I'm going to go Despicable Me 4. I'm going to go Inside Out 2. I'm going to go Long Legs. I'm going to go Quiet Place. I'm going to go Fly Me to the Moon.
Okay.
I think Fly Me to the Moon might do gangbusters.
Okay, and it's fair. It has the movie stars. It has,
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it does.
Maybe I'll let wishful thinking let MaXXXine keep the 5th spot there.
I think your bias is showing.
Yep, that's fine. That's fine. Let me look at how the other films did. How X and Pearl did on their second weekends. X dropped 49% in its second weekend, but it only opened to 4 and then dropped to a little over 2, like 2.5. Pearl opened to 3 and then dropped 39%. It's tough, man. If we have a 39% for MaXXXine, we might be in the clear.
Yeah, but it beats
that's also that's me assuming that Fly Me to the Moon won't make more than 3 to 4 million, which might be a dumb move.
I think that's a dumb move.
I get the sense of flop on this movie though. I can't explain it.
I do too. But 3 million open weekend for a Scarlett Johansson movie is
low. That's low.
Now, granted, the marketing has not been there, but also I don't think I'm the target audience.
All right, so
I could be everywhere.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna change my answer.
Okay.
But I'm replacing MaXXXine with Bad Boys.
Okay. That might be a little safer.
I'm replacing MaXXXine. Now watch, if it's MaXXXine, I'll be so far. I mean, I'll be happy for MaXXXine, but I'll be like, God damn it. But yes, I'm gonna replace it with Bad Boys.
All right, I like it.
It's gonna be a fun weekend.
Yep,
it's gonna be a fun weekend. That is the show, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully next week there'll be some fucking news to talk about.
Yes, but I assume we'll do some stuff for Long Legs probably coming out.
Yeah, we'll have some reviews.
We don't have a screener this week.
Nope.
Next week we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we do.
But yeah, something for Long Legs. Definitely be on the lookout for.
Yes, that'll be super fun. And once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.